One of the things that's difficult about discussing New Age spirituality is that there's no equivalent of the Pope to set any sort of rules. So I'm going to have to generalize a bit, which inevitably means that some of the things I'll be discussing in this video won't apply to every New Age group. And another thing, difficult thing, is that probably lots of people whose philosophy I would call New Age would never use that term themselves. Still, I feel the need to use some sort of umbrella term for those who claim that different religions are variations on one major theme. So for better or worse, I'm going to use the term New Age. So a generalization of New Age philosophy is that when you strip away the frills from all the world's religions, they all contain the same underlying message. And this philosophy focuses on all the areas that different faiths have in common, such as a stress on honesty and kindness, treating others as we ourselves would like to be treated. And they have the conclusion that therefore religions contain no meaningful differences between them. The differences between different religions aren't outright denied, but they're usually downplayed. And the relationship between different religions is seen more as complementary than competitive. Different religions are looked at as opportunities to learn more about what one may call God, or an assortment of alternative terms, the higher power, the higher self, the real, the infinite, the great spirit, the supreme being, the superconsciousness, the universal mind, and so on. Now, my feeling is that when we take the angle of appreciating religious stories for their insights into, say, timeless wisdom, something akin to the way we read Aesop's fables, then I do happen to agree with the idea that every culture may have something to offer. Because regardless of where or when we're born, we all have to deal with issues such as the transition from childhood to adulthood and dealing with disappointment, challenges of getting along with others, etc. So I agree that it can be beneficial, or if nothing else, fascinating, to read about the wide diversity of answers that different religions, the world's religions, have come up with. And much of the New Age literature I've come across does actually take this approach. Brief excerpts about peace and justice and compassion and responsibility. They're pulled from a variety of scriptures and examined on their merits alone. Or in other words, independent of anything supernatural. But on the other hand, once New Age literature goes beyond the point of simply appreciating the world's folk wisdom and proceeds to make the claim that all the world's religions, or even just the major ones, are powered by this single supreme source, then there's the issue of how to explain the unavoidable fact that different religions contain core differences from one another. Some religions claim we're all equal in God's eyes. Others say, no, we're not all equal. The higher power dictated a very specific caste system. Others say we're all separate. We're separate from God. Others say, no, we're all a part of God. Some claim that there's absolutely only one God. Some say God is a 3-in-1 package. Some say there are many religions. There's spirits all over the place. Some claim things like that things like widow burning and other asserted human sacrifices, those are rituals that divinity desires and demands. Other religions say no, divinity abhors things like that, abhors human sacrifice. So I read up on New Age literature. I discussed the subject with New Agers in Yahoo discussion groups, and I came up with 4 categories for all the answers I came across when it comes to explanations for how all religions could possibly be true, in spite of these striking intra-religious contradictions. So I'm going to start out with a quick review of the 5 explanations. Okay, first is this different religions for different needs theory. This theory that tells us, well, God made all the world's religions, but each is different because God modified each one to best suit the needs of differing regions. Second is the corrupted message theory, which is that the only reason we find disharmony and conflict between different religions is because God's originally pristine word has been corrupted by humans. Third approach is what I'm calling the paradox theory, which is that our higher power made different religions differently to confuse us on purpose, because those of us bewildered by conflicting religious doctrines will reap the benefits of having expanded spiritual perceptions. All right, fourth approach is what I'm calling the emanator theory, which is that God didn't set out to inspire any specific text, but holy truths simply emanate. And humans in different time periods, in different cultures, they tune into these emanations in diverse ways, which explains why different religions have both similarities and their differences. All right, fifth and last approach is that even though we humans perceive that religions contradict each other, that's only due to our human limitations. That if we could see things on a level that's high as God's, we could see the commonality between all these so-called rival religions. Now, I don't find that any of these explanations can hold up to scrutiny, but I'll explain each one as fairly as I can. Now, just as a hopefully unnecessary side note here, I'm using the word theory in the common everyday sense of the word, in which theory is just a synonym for the word hypothesis. Not in the scientific sense of the word theory, because in science, of course, a theory and a hypothesis are two very different things. And maybe I should be using the word hypothesis just to avoid any confusion. But I also find that the word hypothesis, it was just kind of long and awkward and clumsy. So I'm just going to go ahead and use the word theory when I discuss these New Age theories, and hope I don't cause any confusion. All right, so in part 4, I'll discuss these differing approaches one by one.